Okay. While you are you here now? Sibanda, can you hear me? Sure. Go on. Very. Wali has joined.
Good morning. That's you can hear us in chat, right?
get started, then do that. Waliu, can you hear me now? Hello? Yeah, I can see you are raising up your hand. Can you hear me? Please just type if you can hear me. Okay, he says he can hear me. That's nice. Can I hear him? No, he's a moderator too. Are you enabled for him to talk? Yeah, he is actually the lead moderator. Okay. Hello, good morning, everyone. Waliu, can you hear me now? Please speak to me because I need to also be hearing you while we talk.
Odogu.
How are you doing? Nice to see you again.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, so good to see you. There are two of us here live at the venue, and how many? Okay, there are two of you there too online. I hope the other persons will join us in due course. But I was just trying to sort a little problem out. Once we are done with that, we can start. And I'll hand over to you for the preliminary remark and the calling up of the members of the panelists. Once we are done with that, then I will moderate the questions and the answer session. So, Waliu, you can just be making your remarks about the panel, then we'll call the first, you can call the first presenter just right about that time.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Alesuguja. Good morning, everyone. Myself and Dr. Alesuguja, as you can see, we co-organizing this panel entitled One Society in Africa, a Decolonial Turn. So our focus in this panel is to see how, scholarship, over time has evolved in this area, and to see how, Africanists are now rethinking, various issues related to war and society, and particularly how, colonial wars, pre-colonial wars, and possibly post-colonial wars, have shaped, African lived experience over time. I wouldn't want to waste much of our time because you all have the details of what we are doing here already. I think it's also important for me to restate that each speaker, has like 12 to 13 minutes to present their papers. Because we are obviously running out of time now. So let me quickly call on the first presenter. I'll call on let me call on Dr. Uche. Is Dr. Uche around? Is Dr. Uche here with us?
I'm not sure.
Okay, in the absence of Dr. Uche, let me quickly have Faith Nena. I think Faith Nena is with us already. Faith Nena.
Okay, Uche just joined.
Okay,
But we can start with Faith Nena while Uche gets ready to take us.
Okay. All right, so I'm just trying to pull up a couple of things here on my side. All right, so I have Omulu Faith Nena, who is a graduate of History and International Studies from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Research interest is in African history with a thematic focus on social history and women and gender studies, war and society. Dr. Ngosik, I think okay, the paper is is co-presented alongside Dr. Ngozika Antonia Obiani, who is also a senior lecturer in the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Department of History and International Studies. She specializes in social and political history, war memories, and women's studies. She's also a member of the LSA Conflict West Africa and Historical Society of Nigeria. Please, let's have you present your paper quickly. 12 minutes, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Standing on the already existing protocol, I want to thank everyone that is here. Now we organize this panel. I'm thanking the chair persons here, Wasu and Alex. Thank you so much. Please don't mind how I speak. I was hospitalized since I was just discharged yesterday from the hospital.
Sorry about that.
My paper is talking women in Obukwa community during the pre-colonial wars. Obukwa is a town in the present day Nsukka local government area, located in Enugu State. Over time, history has relegated the achievements of women, especially during the war times, and giving the glory all to men, without detailing also the achievements of women in actualizing the successes of these wars. So, Obukwa women is also a group of women that really engaged in war during the pre-colonial times. In order to make sure that their men succeed during the war times. Some women there, like Monica, Ona, participated during these wars, where they also participated during the protests. They went to the Nsukka prison in order to bring back their men who was conscripted by the army forcefully in order to engage them during wars, during the colonial era. They marched to the police station in Nsukka, laid their grievances for their men, fathers, brothers, uncles to be released. And they never, husbands, brothers were released. So women over time were neglected. So that was why I took my time to work on this paper in order to talk about this issue of women, because women are also fighters. Also, apart from women being neglected during this war period, goddesses of war like the Numubume in Obukwa were also neglected because it's a war goddess, because it's not a god. Even though that she played important role, position of wars in Obukwa, acquisition of territories for Obukwa people. But history neglected her because she's a goddess. This goddess fights for her people. This goddess when this goddess, when the women, especially the women that are barren, they run to this goddess to beg the goddess for the fruit of the womb. The goddess answers by giving them children and also protecting them from every harm that may come around them. The goddess is the goddess that also prepares all the wars that are against them. A goddess, not a god. So this negligence in history is the gap I tend to feel in this paper, to see that women partake politically, they maintain political participation. So women actually shouldn't be neglected in all this. So again, another woman called the Onoema from me here or Bokba. She also played very important with Nsukka. This woman, Obokpa, engaged in a war between Nsukka, but they were using machetes, while Nsukka have already advanced in using guns. So, as a woman, she was in a relationship by sneaking to steal the gun of her man because she already knows how to use this gun. She stole this gun and came back to the Obokpa people and taught them how to use this gun. This was how Obokpa started to triumph over Nsukka people. But history always neglected them. According to my oral interview with Mr. Isaac of Umunosha or Uwero, he insinuated that this woman single-handedly won this war between Obokpa and Nsukka, to be precise. So, but history always neglected it because it's not a man. The success story, the heroic story always goes to the men because they tend to be the heroes of war. While women who actually plays active role, like helps in medicinal medicine, treating the warriors, they were neglected as their role doesn't count. So this negligence in history is actually inhuman. So my paper speaks about volume during the pre-colonial wars up to 1904. So women,
You have 3
I'm arguing
minutes.
that women I'm arguing that women partakes in war as such, they shouldn't be neglected. So in conclusion, I am saying that women are also partake politically in wars, and as such should be given that accordance of recognition, for they really deserve it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Faith, for your or Mrs. Faith or Miss Faith for your presentation. And may I call on Dr. Ushe now? Sorry. So Dr. Uche Nwazuoke Okonkwo has a PhD in History and Strategic Studies from the University of Lagos, Nigeria. He's a recipient of University of Lagos Graduate Fellowship. He's also a senior lecturer in the Department of History and International Studies, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He has authored and edited over 12 edited books and monographs, including We Drank Palm Wine Until They Arrived, a socio-economic history of southeastern Nigeria. His article includes Implication of Missionary Education for Women in Nigeria, Historical Analysis, published in the Journal of International Women's Studies. The Advertisement of Alcohol in Colonial and Post-Colonial Times in Southern Nigeria, published in Journal of Historical Sociology, and a host of others. I really don't have time to, read out, some of the publications, of Dr. Uche Okonkwo. He's a Nigerian social historian with a research interest in cycling history, earth history, music and popular cultural studies, gender and sexual studies, church history, Igbo studies, slave studies, sport history, alcohol and commodity marketing. His forthcoming book is on the rise and eclipse of bicycle in the transport history of Nigeria. So, Dr. Uche, welcome on board.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, Wasil. Good to see you.
My pleasure.
Right. Alex, I can see you as well. My paper, as already announced, is on Poppy and Armistice Day celebrations in World War I and II memorization in Nigeria. Actually, the argument here is that there is deliberate neglect in capturing the contribution of African war veterans to the war efforts during the First and Second World War. I want to insist that as a British Empire, that Nigeria contributed immensely in terms of human and material resources to both wars. In addition, scholars are beginning to write the World War history by pointing out the neglected efforts of the local people. However, this paper is on an addition to the growing literatures in that field. I started by saying that the engagement of British Africans will continue to elicit academic inquiry. This is because the contribution and impact made by African people to the war effort is often treated as footnotes in European history and even in their pedagogy for teaching. I hope I'm being heard. Hello?
Yeah, yes. Go on.
Okay. Now, I said that there is the absence of sufficient knowledge on the First World War as part of African memorization, except for European colonial records on armistice and Poppy Day celebration. The impact of this celebration is grossly not taken seriously by local people, and to a large extent is not taken seriously in terms of historical accounts. And even with the peasantry economy, created by colonialism, local people were contributing during each Poppy and Armistice Day celebration. For example, in Abad District in 1930, a total of about 2,995 pounds, was raised in 1930 alone, for the purpose of war for Poppy Day celebration. In 1932, it was about 1,696 pounds, and 1934 was about 1,460 pounds, and so many of them. Now, I'm exceptions, in terms of the war effort, do not take into cognizance the significant role, played by African war veterans. And I'm thinking that this is not right. I said, but history is only about the inspirer, and most often the people who actually bear the burden of war are not taken into cognizance or into account when war historiography is being recounted for. Then I said that African engagement in the First World War indicate that they were most receiving and associated with war losses. The British propaganda mechanism against her enemy lured her satellite states, into involvement of war. And they engaged in an act of patriotism, but to a large extent defending British imperial interests. The British propaganda machinery played an important role in raising the morale of the people, in directing their energies in supporting the imperial interests of winning the war. I cited an example of Nnamdi Azikiwe's book, My Odyssey, where he shared his experience in 1914 as a schoolboy. They were asked to pray for the Allied armies to win the war, as colonial administration and missionary teachers referred to the Germans as barbarians and butchers. This was the kind of mental imagery created by British war propaganda. Indeed, at the end of the First World War, British colonial regime created a reward system by giving medals to soldiers for their war efforts in what has been referred to as ornamentalism. I think one of few scholars have done that. So this was kind of imperial politics, that was ongoing. Then Azikiwe, still in that book, recounted that, and I quote him, "I was at present when Nigerian soldiers returned from the First European War, and I was struck with the sad fate of many of them. The gratuity paid to those who returned was nominal and discriminatory when compared to what was paid to Europeans, and none of them had risen above the rank of regimental sergeant major. I mean, the Africans who were engaged, in the world wars, So now my argument is that the commemoration of the world wars in Africa had witnessed a lot of transformations. And I argue that apart from the establishment of imperial war graves, the armistice and popular celebrations, that which was also designed, to extort the local people, create win the war funds to support British welfare, in terms of taking care of soldiers' demobilization. And I said that historians and scholars, especially of non-African descent, have attempted essays on First World War, and in most cases ended their research from the perspective of attracting sympathies on the losses of the war to the British people alone. The recent works on posthumous lives and culture of memory, is a reference point that Africans are not taken into cognizance, in terms of their war efforts. The war is mostly viewed from British lens, and efforts of the British satellite states are neglected. The African involvement in the World War has engaged scholars, like I said, but there appears to be non-effort in the localization of the effort of the local people in terms of war effort. Then I now say that even records of African engagement in those wars are not found, except for epitaphs, created at war graves. And I argue that the conduct of the Commonwealth War Grave Commission differs, as there is existence of total inequities in commemoration efforts. It was in 2019, a special committee was appointed to look into activities of the activities of the organization, with emphasis of identifying loopholes in the manner.
Dr. Kompo, you have
yes
4 minutes more, please.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I said finally, the emphasis of this paper is that the Poppy Day and armies, just like the British Empire Day celebrations, were mere, colonial, imperial deceit. There is little or no effort, in terms of welfare to cater for the African war veterans who were, committed, who sacrificed in order to promote, British imperial interests. I'm afraid I have to stop here.
All right. So thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Uche Okonkwo. Unfortunately, I don't think I have any other panelists here, or is there anyone else that I've not recognized?
Yeah, there is one, Waliu.
Who is
We
that
have
person?
Ojo David, the number third presentation on the schedule. Ojo David from the university, from Lagos State University.
Yeah, but I can't find Ojo on the
No,
link here.
she's here. She's
Okay,
here with me. If you can see
oh,
me,
she's
you
the
can
one
see
here
her.
there with
Okay.
you.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, yes.
oh,
So
sorry.
I want to call her for presentation.
Okay, let me quickly pull up. So, okay, Han Ojo, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. I got your email like 1 hour ago. Dr. Han Ojo David is a lecturer in Lagos State University, LASU, Ojo, Department of Public Administration, Faculty of Management Sciences. She specializes in development administration, sustainable development, public sector management, e-governance, and gender studies. She is a member of LSA, Chartered Institute of Local Government and Public Administration, and Chartered Institute of Public Diplomacy and Management. So, Dr. Ojo, welcome on board. Let's have your presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, all. My presentation is on a topic, decolorization of the ban on sustainable development attainment in Nigeria. When you're talking about issue of decolonization, the first thing is, why have the colonization failed? When you talk about the issue of colonization, there are two schools of thought. One believes that colonization has brought about urbanization, large markets, modern administrative structure, and bureaucracies. While to other school of thought, they believe colonization has brought underdevelopment to the colonial societies. Nigeria, for instance, gained our independence in 1960. Then the question is, how have the decolonization process failed as far as Nigeria is concerned? Because so far, Nigeria have struggled with developmental projects and the attainment of development. That is the reason for this study, to examine the decolonization conundrum and its challenges and consequences in ensuring that Nigeria attain the sustainable development goals. A lot of developmental effort has been put in place since Nigeria gained independence. And the purpose for these various developmental policies and programs is to enable Nigeria attain development at one stage or the other. And when we look at the various national development policies, started from the pre-national development policy, which was stated at the 1946 to 1956. And the purpose for this is just to meet the interest of the colonial masters in producing agricultural products that meet the colonial masters' needs. Followed is the developmental plan for 1955 to 1960. And what is this all about? It's all about expenditure, how to allocate resources to the various ethnic groups. Shortly after that was the plan for 1962 to 1968. And this is the developmental plan objective that was geared towards infrastructural development. But it was short overlived by the war that cropped up. And after the war, the next developmental project was centered on reconstruction, restructuring of the damaged infrastructures and facilities during the war. And immediately after that, they came up again with another development strategy, and it has followed that to the Millennium Development Goal. When the Nigeria joined the national nations to implement sustainable development, which was implemented through the Millennium Development Goals. And to implement this, they came up with a lot of a series of developmental policies, from a national economic empowerment and development strategy to national poverty eradication to 7-point agenda and what have you. And with all these various policies geared at attainment of sustainable development, it was still discovered that at the expiration of the Millennium Development Goals, Nigeria was still among the nations of the world that were lagging in the actualization of the Millennium Development Goal to attain sustainable development in their nations, which now led to the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals of 2016. And the question is, how far have Nigeria fared in the actualization or the attainment of sustainable development goals? Going by the ranking results of nationwide, if you look at Nigerian ranking scores from 2016 that they kickstarted the implementation of sustainable development goals to date, you will see that from 2016 to 2022, Nigeria have not fared any better. They are still lagging when it comes to the actualization of the Sustainable Development Goal, because so far from 2016 to 2021, they have scored below 50%. The only time they have scored close to above 50% is just in 2022, where they scored 54.2 in the national ranking of the UN in the attainment of sustainable development goals. Then what are the challenges and consequences of decolonization on sustainable development in Nigeria? When you look at the challenges and the consequences of decolonization on sustainable development in Nigeria, you will see unhealthy tussle for the control of state power among the various ethnic groups, followed by rapid population explosion in the urban area, which came with the attendance social vices and undue tremendous pressure on critical infrastructure due to overpopulation, especially in the urban centers. Again, we have the lack of insufficient qualified personnel to fill in the vacant positions led by the departing colonial masters. Then the recurring ethnic and religious conflict leading to random destruction of life and property. Again, the inheritance of weak state institutions, corruption, abuse of power, political instability, and frequent changes of governance or government. These are the challenges and consequences of decolonization on sustainable development in Nigeria. Then, sorry, I'm very sorry. When we are talking about the conclusion and suggestion for this study, it was concluded and suggested that the process of decolonization was not complete because the developmental challenges, the nation are still facing the challenges that they felt was due to colonization that made them to fight for independence. Have the independence re-ushered in the dividend of independence when it comes to sustainable development? The question for me is no. And to be able to attain this study is recommending political decolonialization, psychological decolonization, economic decolonization, socio-cultural decolonization, and technological decolonization. I believe if the government or the state can look toward these areas to bring in improvement, I think to some extent we'll be able to attain the sustainable development that we are clamoring for. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ojo, for your presentation. Dr. Alex, do you know if Shikumba joined? Do you know if Shikumba ever joined the panel?
I am not sure. We have 6 attendees, and
Yes.
I'm not
We're supposed to have a
seeing.
presenter we are supposed to have a presenter from Morocco.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There are only
Shikumba from
4
University of
panelists.
Massachusetts, Amherst, and
Yeah. No, Chikumba is not here, and um, Othman Baichu is not here too. So I think
Banju
we
from
can.
Morocco. Yeah.
Is the person here now?
No, no.
Okay, so from
Uh,
from
yeah, in the absence of that, I think we'll just focus on these 3 presenters, get questions, take questions from our attendees, then we can engage a little bit with whatever questions we get from them.
okay.
All right,
Right.
so I think we have Dr. Steve Bolonduro. I can see Dr. Murenikeji Ashaju, Dr. Catherine, Shukwe Bukaugu, Ngozika Obiani, Kwazin Kosi Sibanda. Let's have your questions, please. Let's engage a little bit.
Okay. I will be moderating this Q&A session, and I'd like to thank the presenters for these wonderful presentations that they have done. I also want to thank the attendees for, saying that or joining us to engage the conversations that have been raised by these presentations. Um, what we're gonna do now is the attendees please use the Q&A to ask the individual presenters questions, and also make your own contributions, comments, suggestions there, so that we can read and direct you to the individual presenters. I'd like to start the conversation by, asking these 3 presenters questions that, will place some of these papers in the decolonial perspective. First, I'd like to start with Uche Okonkwo's wonderful presentation. Dr. Okonkwo, thank you for that presentation. But I am particularly interested in the challenge of the archive. Yesterday, Tim Lipsy, or was it 2 days ago here at the panel, was talking about the migrated archive, where the British authorities, at the wake of independence, took a lot of archival documents that speak to a lot of issues about colonial rule, and moved them to the United Kingdom and had them classified there for several number of years. So the question to you, Dr. Konkwo, is, within the challenges that we have with data, especially archival data, how do you hope to, navigate this within the decolonial conversation? That is to you, because I know that if you were to have, access to archives outside Nigeria, you are going to be seeing some of these issues you have raised in an entire different light. So how do you hope to do that within the Nigerian educational system that is part of the same decolonial issues we are raising? Omulu and Obiani, thank you very much for that interesting uh, presentation. And I should say that the community that you are studying is just a neighboring community to mine. And it may surprise you to know that which is a neighboring community to Obuka. The question I have is, I did not get a sense of the specific wars in which women distinguish themselves that you are focusing on, especially in pre-colonial period, because your paper tends to suggest that the experience you are trying to recreate, starting from the pre-colonial era up to 1904. I understand you also want to factor the Obuba and the Soka War. So, which specific wars and with which communities women at Obuba play specific roles? And I'll have a sense of a better grasp of what you want to do if you relate the specific wars in which women play significant roles. And I could also get some of these roles that these women played properly articulated by your research. I like to get a better understanding of that. To Dr. Ojo, thank you for that interesting paper too. I just want to ask, simply, these recommendations that you have, so wonderfully articulated, or who do you think will be engaging them? Who do you want to engage them? So you have the time to respond. Okay, so after now, Dr. Waliu, are you still with us? Okay, good. So when they are done, taking
I'm very much with you.
Okay, good. When they are done, responding to these issues, we will now see if our attendees have made suggestions or contributions. And if you do have questions to put across to them, then also they can also engage with fellow panelists, and then the conversation will start from them. So in the order of present, or rather, let's start from the way I called it. Dr. Konkwo, can we have your response to the question? Dr. Konkwo, are you with us? Okay. Faith Nena Omolu, can you respond to your own question?
Okay. Yeah, there are various wars that Obukwa fought with her neighbors. Obukwa really fought several wars with her neighbors to appropriate lands. For instance, when I was making my speech, I talked about the Edruona Usoka War. This war was between Edruona Obukwa and Nsoka. Women, actually, the person of Onoima, as I previously mentioned, from
Sorry, please. What year was this war again? Sorry, please.
She
What year was this war?
single-handedly.
Faith, please. What year was the Edruona and the Nsoka war, please?
When was the war?
When was the war? Are you with us? Okay, if it's not clear, you can just move on. What interests me? I just wanted to have a sense of the time.
Yeah. Chronology is very important. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was what actually happened. So the 1904, that was the date that the whites came to Obukpa.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Okonkwo, please, can you respond to your own question? Dr. Okonkwo, please.
There's a question here.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah,
okay.
Before we move to the, sorry, excuse me. Before we move to Dr. Ushi Okonkwo, I think there's a question from Dr.
Between
is directed to Faith Nin. So the question is, my question is to Faith Nena. Can you talk more about the different type of sources stroke methodology employed for their study, for this study?
Sorry
okay.
about that.
Nena, can you respond to the question? We have a question for you from Moronike Asaju. She wants you to
read it out to you again, so I'm happy to do that. The question is, can you talk more about the different type of sources and methodology employed for this study?
Okay, well, I employed the archival reports. I went to the Enugu archives to see for archival materials. That was where I actually get the source when the British came to Obokpa. I also went for oral interviews where I interviewed some eyewitnesses that were still alive, or those that the story, came down to. So these were the people I actually interviewed. These were the two main sources I employed. Again, I also used electronic sources, paper books, articles also.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for your response. Well, I think the only concern we still have now is about the chronology of the war. When was the war fought?
Yeah, the war
That way
lacks
you can place
chronology.
it alongside, your methodology. You're using archival materials.
Okay.
We don't know if this war was actually fought in the pre-colonial period prior to the advent of the colonial masters. So
Yeah.
the war, happens to be a pre-colonial warfare, and placing it side by
Yeah.
side with, the period you are engaging in the archives, we might also want to
From
have one or two more questions to ask. So,
okay,
so it's
from
important
my from my
that
research actually.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, from my research actually, I would say that this research is being dated back within the 1800s. Yeah, it's been dated back within the 1800s because it was within this period of series of wars, that when Obokpa were engaging in wars with her neighbors, that made the whites to come to Obokpa in order to stop their excesses, and because it was in that 1904 when they arrived, when the British arrived in Obokpa, that the wars actually in Obokpa in that 1904.
Well, just like Wali said, there should be a clear sense of chronology. 1800 is like 100 years, and there's no specific understanding of the particular wars that you're studying, right? I know that the period you are studying, has a lot of wars, but some of these wars do not even last for more than 5 days. The Ujiji war between Obupa and Okuje in the 1830s was just about 4 days, the traditional understanding of wars among the
Yeah, that was why I appropriated it to 1800s, because all these wars actually happened within the 1800s. That was why I actually appropriated the dates to 1800s, because there are various wars. Obukpa fought war with Ibawa, with Enugu with Ichi, with
Okay, so the point is that first you should try to get a dating for these wars. Wait. Hello? Can you hear me?
So all these wars occurs within the period of 1800s. So, but what I wouldn't.
Hello? Can you hear me? Just try to get some understanding of the particular period in which this.
Yes.
So that will help us to place the wars in perspectives. This one happened this year or within this period in the 1820s, or this one happened in 1822, this one happened in 1850. Because war is just like society. technologies, understanding of war, relations between people, and you know, the war capitals, all of them
Yeah,
evolve
that's
with
true.
time. Wait, so if we don't get an understanding of how these wars have been moving, it may really be difficult to understand the roles that women played in them. Thank you very much. Now, Dr. Konkwo, can we quickly hear you about decolonizing your...
Yeah,
We have a question from one of our attendees, Ngosika Obiani.
No, let's take the first round of questions, Waliu. Then we will now come to the attendees and then take their own questions. So, Dr. Konkwo, can you quickly respond to decolonizing your archive?
Alex, thank you. You Wasiu, you barely, you live here. When I say you live here, means you know Enugu archives very well,
Yeah.
and Nigerian archives very well. And I mean, the archive is in tatters. Let me start with that of Enugu. You know, Wasiu, we spent a lot of time, I think last year, you know, researching in Enugu. Yeah, what I have done is that I've been able to get piecemeal collections from various provinces, like River Province, you know, about districts, files on, you know, quite a few of them, you know, on war veterans, welfare, win the war fund, and stuff like that, you know. But apart from that, I have a little grant that will be, I think, sometime early next year, that will be taking me out. You know, I hope to be in the British Archives in London sometime next year to augment what I've gotten from Enugu, you know. But to answer your question, there is a lot of, you know, missing files, you know, when it comes to doing colonial, you know, historiography. You know, for example, I'm just looking at Europeans' conjugal mischievousness, you know, in colonial Nigeria. You don't find those files in Enugu. But somebody told me, you know, a friend who lives in the UK told me he saw quite a few things. So I hope to travel because it's part of a book work I'm doing, you know. So I hope to get that done, you know, probably see what they have in the UK to augment what I have back home here.
Thank you very much. Dr. Biana, I've taken cognizance of your question or your comment. We'll come back to you. Dr. Can you respond to who do you make recommendations for?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to respond to your question. Just as I suggested, when I talk about political decolonization, when I'm talking about political decolonization, this suggestion is made to those, all the political leaders and those aspiring for political leadership. They should know where they should channel their leadership skill to, especially to improve the lives of the citizens. They should know that they are there to serve the citizens and not to be taking instruction from the Western political leaders. Then when you talk about this suggested psychological decolonization, you talk about, I'm talking about our own self, our culture, our belief that we need to work upon, especially even the way we view government work and service when we are put in position. It has to change, and we know we have a lot to do if we want development. It starts from us. We cannot be expecting or looking up to the Western world to effect development for us. We have to do everything by working on our attitude, our behavior, and other aspects to make sure this development is domesticated. Then I also mentioned issue of socio-cultural decolonization. Yes, it still borders on the society, especially the ethnic and religious societies. What are we doing? Because most cases, majority have been sacrificed on the altar of what? Man no man, favoritism. We keep on bringing people we know by recommendation, is this or is that. So all these things have to change if we have to attain sustainable development. And again, the issue of economic decolonization. What is sustainable development. It's a development that meet the need of the future with that, and also meeting the need of today and also the need of the future. We should look inward. When we talk about technology, there are several aspects of the local needs that we can improve upon that can translate to development for us.
Thank you so much. Incidentally, you are here, so you may want to come and make your person, or you can stay online and make it. Okay. Which would you prefer now? Huh?
Who is that?
Yeah,
Who is that,
Obian is here. Obian is here in the studio.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe you can talk, they will hear you. Just
Yeah, I think she's trying to make clarifications regarding periodization.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I had issue when Alex was hampering on the periodization of that war. That war took place before the coming of European. And if you had read Ropes of Sand by Afibo, you understand that Afibo mentioned about that particular war because of what the Obupa people, well, the way they had, that was the period of consolidation, settlement and consolidation. So the people, they wanted to get as much land. That was the period of survival of the fittest. They wanted to appropriate as much land as possible from their weaker neighbors. So they continued with that war until the coming of the Europeans. So the Europeans, because of what they've heard about Obupa, they now invaded Obupa, destroyed Obupa, they dealt with Obupa. So I've done a similar work with the OP and EK, and then saying about that periodization, saying that this is a particular time. Even the archival material will tell you that this was happened shortly before the coming of Europeans. That was the period when it's been dated. So telling us to go back and start asking them whether it is in 1840 or 1850 may pose a difficult problem. That's why we mentioned that these things happened before the coming of Europeans. The war was so ferocious that even the white man had to invade Obupa in order to stop their war of expansion against their neighbors. So I want to make that clear.
what I was actually, because this is somewhat within my area too, what I was actually interested in is she was talking about wars. So this particular war now you are talking about is on the eve of colonial rule, right? But she was discussing wars that women, of our women, had participated in. So we wanted to have a sense of the period in which these wars happened. Because why that is important is that towards the end of the 19th century, when the British and other Europeans had begun to place serious checks on the slave trade, a lot of the people who ordinarily would have been repatriated to the New World had to be in the Bonny areas, in Calabar area, old and new Calabar. You see a lot of people. So there was a significant problem of population explosion and leading to land grabs. So within the ending part of that 19th century, we saw that many communities were beginning to have issues with their neighbors about land because the slaves that were supposed to have been moved were not moved. And a lot of issues that had to do with internal society, leading to a lot of internal problems. So if we know the period in which this wars happened, it will now help us to understand why, for example, land became an issue. Because ordinarily in the early 19th century, it wasn't so much of a problem that people would start to struggle about land. But the population explosion towards the end of that 19th century aggravated challenges with land. I read your work on Nike and Opidis. It was within the same period, ending of the 19th century, and also related to the problem of population explosion. So we just wanted to have a sense. The presentation is not so, the time was not there for us to have an understanding of whatever you guys must have put up, but just to have a sense. And now that you are saying that work is focused on the coming of the British to the Nsukka area. That's understandable to me. I don't have any problem with saying that this is a particular study we are doing within this period. That's just what I wanted to hear. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. No, what we're saying is just very simple. Perfect, but we need to have a sense of timing to understand it. So let's not belabor this so that we can also engage other papers. You ask your own question. Thank you very much. Now we understand that it is towards the end of the 19th century. It helps us to make an appreciation of the war and the society in which the war happened. So thank you very much for that wonderful intervention, Dr. Obiani. Waliu, do we have other questions from the attendees?
Not at all.
Okay, so we want to open the floor now to the panelists to engage each other. Starting with Okonkwo. You may, if you have any question, please, maybe to us, or you have a contribution, a clarification, or something you didn't say very well in the presentation. You can now. So you have just 2 minutes to do this because we are.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay,
Alex, I hope you can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Actually, my concern, when Faith was presenting, I'm not talking about my paper. I'm talking about that of Faith. Okay. There was some misplacement of chronology. Okay, in terms of at the time she would use pre-colonial and refer also to 1904. I think that was your concern when you raised that when you raise that point. That's number one. Then number two, I hope I'm being heard.
Yeah, we can hear you.
That Faith mentioned about a particular woman who went to the enemy camp and came back
with the gun.
With the gun or stuff like that. There is one mistake we make, in African historiography, which is wrong. For example, I read a lot about Moremi, as a heroine, but that's not the actual, event that took place. Moremi eloped with her lovers and only returned back when the relationship ended. So that particular woman in Obupa may be a case study of marital infelicity or infidelity, if you like. Having at that period, if she can afford to have friends, she eloped with her friends and probably they had issues. She came back with a gun. I know of a work by Wanda Chebe on Arabic of Enugu Ezike, placing her as a heroine, this and that. Whereas the woman was a prostitute. So when we are writing African history, we must be very careful.
Okay, thank you. I think you've made the point. Obiani will respond to that. Yeah, Obiani will respond to that. That's very interesting. I actually wanted to say something about the gun issue, but I will allow Obiani to respond to that. Not now. Let's take. So Faith, Nena, you have any question to ask your co-panelists or maybe clarify a point. You can also respond to these questions before. I know Obiani is very itchy to respond to that already. So Faith, if you have no question, we'll defer to Obiani to respond to that. Faith, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. The
So you may want to
1904.
clarify the point you made, yes.
Yeah, the 1904 I'm referring to was when the Europeans invaded Obupa. That was the 1904. I've been specific about it. I don't know if anybody is getting confused about that. The 1904 I've been mentioning was when the Europeans invaded Obokpa, after all the series of wars Obokpa have been engaging with her neighbors.
Okay, thank you. What
So,
about the woman that went to collect the boyfriend's or the husband's gun? Please, can you talk
okay,
about that?
that was according to oral interview. Some of this information are being distorted on the way, but I say it as I interviewed Mr. Isaac of Umunocha Obukpa. So he was the one that made mention of the woman who collected gun from her man, to be precise, and due to the fact that she knew and she had been seeing how the gun is being used, she had to take the gun, bring it back to the Edgerunners people, and that was how they triumphed over Nsukka, because Obukpa was using machetes.
Thank you. Because of time,
Uche,
Ma.
you are neglecting the role the women played in that war. If you had read my opinion, the OP people employed the same method, because without it, they wouldn't have conquered the Nike, a well-known slave trading community around that Axis. So you understand that women were used, because in most cases, you will find out that women are the weakness of some men. So in that case, they knew that the warrior, the weakness is a woman, a beautiful one, and they gave her this particular woman. And she also use that thing to save. So when you are talking about Moremi, you also talk about Deborah in the Bible. This has been so go and read my opinion again. Now you see the role of women in that war.
okay. Okay, but no. There's something very strategic here. I want to emphasize the point made by this is very important to me. When we are writing words, whether contribution of women, we should also be careful, especially in interrogating oral sources. Now, something happened. Like I quarreled with Nwanto Achebe's work. I quarreled with that word. I said, this is unnecessary. This is unnecessary romanticization. Unnecessary romanticization. Now, a woman went and collected the gun. Now, see the strategic import. Collected the gun of one person, and with just only one gun from a company. She said that the Nsukka people had already been exposed to the use of guns for warfare, so it was part of their arsenal, and the Obuka people were using machetes, and a woman went to collect only one gun and came back with only one gun to her community, and with only one gun, her community now started triumphing. You see the narrative now. This other community was already exposed to fighting wars with guns, and this Obuba had only one gun, and with one gun they were able to displace the other community. So the person must have told you this thing like this. You will come back and ask a question. In reading, for example, what's this other guy supervised by Achebe at Michigan State? What's this other guy from Alhafia? In that book, the Atlanticization of you know the guy that went to Nsukka, Mba. You see,
yes,
there are a lot of such instances, for example, where a woman, just like this portrayal now, where a woman went to, her husband was mesmerized in war, and then he returned as Ujo in the war, and so he could not take titles, he couldn't take anything. In order to justify and to reposition her husband in society, the woman went to acquire a gun in the market. In the 19th century, early 19th century, I said, no, this is a problem. Guns were not sold in the market in the early 19th century. If you needed a gun, which was very valuable, in fact, you needed a whole lot of money in the 19th century to be able to acquire a gun. Gun was, a tool for Ogaranya. Only very wealthy men could, possess guns. A woman went to the market to buy a gun, and you just wrote it like that. I said, this is a historiographical problem, because nowhere in Igbo land were guns sold in the open market in the 19th century. This was a code for something bigger than what you are interpreting. We should be very careful with the way we don't just take it the way they told you. Listen to the thing. It could be a code for a bigger historical event or a D event. So that's just what I wanted to say. But your study is very interesting. Even myself as a war historian, I have not been able to do the war history of Okuje. Okuje people as Okuje Okuje aligned with Igala in those days, to become one of these, but I've not been able to do that because of the serious financial implications of doing oral history. So I commend you for that work. And I also want to say that we should also be careful with what we get in the field. It is the interpretation that is far more important. So this is a very good study that you are doing. And it also has motivated me to also want to think about Obuje and war in the 19th century around the Nsukka area. So we will come to you, Dr. Do you have a question or a clarification that you want to make?
I believe what you are trying to address is every illustration or any cited issue should be dated or referenced.
Yeah, partly.
So I believe that is what all this agitation or conversation, agreement and disagreement is all about. When we bring up an issue, reference it to where it can be traced to.
Yeah.
Pre-colonial, the post-colonial, and what have you.
Yeah, technically, yeah, it's but it's a bit deeper than that. So I don't know. Nobody is imposing any view on anybody. It's just the way we thought. But the most important thing is that your work has also excited our intellectual.
Sure.
So I am now looking at the possibilities of maybe in the future, going down there, for the fact that you have started something on, because the last time I tried to do something in my community, really wasn't easy at all, because you have to be on ground. You can't come from Oka to return again. So it's yeah, we do have some minutes.
I'm sorry I was late with the presentation because I need to take notes. So the thing is this: those the colonial wars, we have people that when they are the rest. So if the only target usually black person, like in the case of me and me, is this what the man I liking him as Onojo Ogori of Igala. So is this I see people will go to the market, terrorize them. He's the only person. So they do is to bring all this the strong men, the powerful men, all the angels, to disarm them. This particular man was also the kind of a figure that when the Nsukka people project, the rest will be at face. So he's the only person that could be disarmed, and then the community could be defeated. So
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. Very important. Now she has put it in better perspective. In other words, it was espionage. They sent the woman and to disarm the Goliath, just like in the Bible. Once Goliath fell, the Philistines were all put to flight. So that makes it better for us to understand. And I think dislodges the point I have raised about strategy. So that's very understandable. And that's the importance of this kind of conversations. I had come from a different perspective. And as you have explained, and actually those days wars were really fought by strong men. There are people who would, be disarmed, that this community is finished. So that is very interesting. Thank you for that perspective. I didn't think about it when I made my own intervention. Dr. Waliu, do you have any specific questions to the presenters? You are muted.
We don't have for now, so I have another 7 minutes. I haven't slept since yesterday, so I really need to go now, get some rest and get set for my seminar. Thank you very much to our panelists. I really appreciate you guys for your beautiful presentations, and I kind of love the way you guys brought nuances into the around the so colonial was shaped, the course of human history in Nigeria as a whole. So thank you very much. Unfortunately, we couldn't have, Shikumba, who would have walked us through some processes on how World War II veterans in Zimbabwe, for example, kind of reintegrated back in civilian life. And one other presenter who is unable to join us too from Morocco. So that will have added to, perspective here beyond the scope of Nigeria. So, but nevertheless, I want to appreciate each and every one of you who made it, a responsibility to be here today. So without your presentation, it would have been difficult for us to have any, discussion or debates around war and society in Africa. Not to talk about how do we decolonize the idea of war studies, war and society scholarship in Africa. So thank you very much for your presentations. So let's keep in touch. My email is open. If you think I should read your paper, please shoot me an email. I'm always happy to read through your paper, make comments, suggestions, and contributions. And if you also need any other thing beyond paper reading, please. The idea of the conference is not just for us to, discuss paper. It's also for us to network. In case there are other opportunities, we can always, call ourselves to them. So thank you very much once again. Thank you, Dr. Allet, for coordinating the question and answer section. Thank you for bringing your, experience to bear in that area. And I really enjoyed your debate with faith. I really enjoyed your debate with faith.
Okay.
Second
That's
presenter,
fine.
so yeah. Who
Okay,
co-presented
so we may want
paper.
to excuse you now. Go and rest. We will keep this thing
All right.
open.
So thank you very much. So
Yeah.
see you some other time. Bye for now.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Faith, you're from Abuja.
All right.
Yes, I am.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. The Abuja people collected our
I am from
land.
Okuje.
Yeah, in fact. Faith, your people collected my people's land and refused to return that land.
Yes,
Because
yes.
they
We
collected
are a
Okuje
very
land
strong
and seized it.
community.
You people collected our land and seized it, and it became part of our Abuja. Is it part of your ward?
Yes, so
Okuje,
yes, so acquisition of
Obupa,
territory.
Ehalumona, and then Soka, they are the four so-called brothers that came from Ida or whatever they call they came from.
Yeah, yeah.
Your people,
Yeah.
you now begged us to give you a pass. I'm serious. This is a problem. The youth of
We
my
are
people
very
are saying
strong
they want to
people.
go back and collect back their land. People now are saying that this is their land in perpetuity. Maybe I should become the strong man of the Okuje people. Collect our land back. Okay, it's so good that you are doing what you are doing. This is my sister. Dr. Okonkwo.
Sir.
This is wonderful. Oh, that's great. That's great. Dr. Okonkwo. Yeah. GCK, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Gini many was in nam.
Yeah, we had a PhD seminar here, Chinua.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. She was supposed to come for the mentorship.
I was an internal reader.
Oh.
Yeah, we were supposed.
It's well, it's well. There are
Hello,
many
Doc.
other
Good morning, ma.
Good morning. Faith, Kedu. Get away, you. I attacked you.
In 10 minutes.
I attacked you.
Yeah, you can
thank
end
you.
the session. Okay, see you. They want to end the session and prepare for another one.
See you guys.
All
Bye.
right. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Come, baby.
Bye-bye.
All right.